students, welcome to the online NPTEL course Contemporary Architecture and Design. Today we will discuss the post-industrial revolution's visual style in the domain of architecture and design, and within that we will discuss focus on against the machine movement, and within that we have already started the against the machine movement with the discussion of art and craft movement. Today we will mainly focus on Art Nouveau, which is similar to art and craft movement, because the thought process of art and craft movement and Art Nouveau both supported the traditional visual style in terms of classical and the Baroque, Rococo, these styles, as well as the craftsman's generated folk style, and which is an reaction against the machine aesthetics, which was followed by the artists and architects of for the machine movement, who acknowledged the aesthetics which was evolved from the machine generated product, and because of the mass production. So if we look at the situation right now in the the post industrial revolution and pre-modern era, so there was this two architectural style, one and two are absolutely on the opposite pole. One was went for the machine, which was the style based on the machine generated aesthetics. Another was against the machine, which encompasses the traditional craftsmanship as well as the architectural traditional architectural style. So in against the machine movement, we have two different movements where we have discussed art and craft movement earlier. Art Nouveau was another movement. Art and craft movement flourished in Britain and rest of the Europe later, and then went to the rest of the world and America. But Art Nouveau flourished in rest of the Europe as well, and then went to the America. These two are highly similar because they all opposed the machine aesthetics, but there are some salient difference between art and craft movement and Art Nouveau, which we will discuss today. And we have already discussed the art and craft movement, and you know the visual style of art and craft movement and their salient features. So based on that knowledge, we will discuss how art and craft movement and Art Nouveau are slightly different. What is their visual style, how you can identify the difference of visual style of Art Nouveau and art and craft movement with their slight variation, but philosophically they are quite similar in nature. So when we look at Art Nouveau, it comes here, which is part of against the machine movement, which and the reaction against for the machine movement. For the machine movement we have discussed, and these are the main machine generated aesthetics was there, which followed in modern architecture, later phase of modern architecture, much more than against the machine movement. But against the machine movement's aesthetics was also followed in some of the modern architecture, but this was in the high modern architecture was very abstract, not like Art Nouveau and Art Nouveau. So Art Nouveau and Art Deco was suppressed by the new style of architecture, but so as the for the machine movement, because there was a new architectural style which evolved from these two styles, with the benefits and with the positive sides of both the styles. So in Art Nouveau we have in architecture Hotel Tassel and Hotels Solvay by Viktor Jota, and Casa Batlló, Casa Milà by Antonio Gaudí. This is in Brussels, Belgium, and this is in Barcelona, Spain. We will look at the design in this lecture. So Art Nouveau, the connotation, this is a terminology of French terminology, which in English literal translation means new art. So art and nouveau means new. So this is they are termed as a new style of art, and this is definitely when we were discussing the graph that which goes low on aesthetics and then high on aesthetics. This is minimal and then aesthetics. So Art Nouveau will definitely come here, because the name says this is mostly form and aesthetic driven. This is not just a function driven, where the Bauhaus for the machine movement will come in this side of the graph, which we were discussing 2 lectures ago, and Art Nouveau will definitely come here, where there's a lot of ornamentation. So as the art and craft movement, this will be high on aesthetic value, but not minimal at all. So lot of ornamentations are there. So the name also suggests that. So this is a reaction against the machine, which is quite similar to the art and craft movement. Then they started re-establishing the craftsmanship over the mass production of industry. So this is also the similar features which we have seen in the art and craft movement. They are also was inclined towards traditional craftsmanship, the traditional method and technique, the way William Morris have told that it has to be artisans' own expression has to be imbibed with the material and the technique of the production, and which was against the mass production of for the machine movement. But the difference here with the art and craft movement, the philosophical difference between the art and craft movement and Art Nouveau was they did not reject the new material and techniques. They used new material and techniques to create the biomorphic and curvilinear patterns. So they used new techniques which emerged from the new technological advancement of science, and then they used it in their benefit to express their own creative thought process, which art and craft movement did not do. So they art and craft movement emphasized on the craftsmanship, the traditional technique, so that the craft guild will survive, not the industry. But here in Art Nouveau, they took the benefits of industry, but they retained their own visual style. So usage of wrought iron, glass and ceramic was there in this Art Nouveau style. So usage of wrought iron, as we are discussing in industrial revolution. Industrial revolution happened because of the they started using iron as a construction material, iron as a product design material. So we see the overpowering structural capacity of iron in Eiffel Tower, as well as in the other public building like railway stations. So they can take huge span, and the ornamentation can also, and Art Nouveau architects and designers thought that ornamentation can also be done with wrought iron. It should not just be like the structural manifestation of a simple abstract form. There can be ornamentation with the new material as well. So they used wrought iron, the new material, with the new techniques to mold the wrought iron, and took their design thought process into the new paradigm with the help of new technique and new material. And also the ceramic and glass. So if you look the Crystal Palace and the other things, so the wrought iron was the structural member, and then the glass was the facade element, and then the glass was there with the wrought iron. So they started using glass and wrought iron, and they have taken these new materials into their creative process as well. That is the why this has much more, if we look at this point, Art Nouveau influenced varied paradigm of creative fields, because they have taken new materials into consideration. So they can combine with architecture. Art and craft movement also had architectural influence, but they mostly followed the traditional style. So they were confined into the house design, which looked like a barn. But if they started following that same style in other built forms, for example public spaces like railway station and others, they cannot use the same barn like architectural style in other phases. So they in this Art Nouveau we will see in metro stations and other areas, they have used wrought iron with which is a new technology, with their creative essence. So it percolated more in architecture. And then graphic design was also there. Graphic design also definitely was there in art and craft movement. And then fine arts, industrial design, furniture design, jewelry. In industrial design this percolated a lot, because they imbibed the new technology, and product design and many other domains, because they took the benefit of the new technology. They can percolate more into the other creative fields rather than art and craft movement. And also it started in a various countries of Europe, unlike art and craft movement, which was the focal genesis point was Britain, and then similar time period, and also it went to the USA as well. And it was, again, if you look at, it was flourished between 1980s, the same time as art and craft movement, and stopped at 1910. Art and craft movements stopped at 1920, which is the time of where we think that modern architecture style started. So it started a little 10 years before, almost. This is not a very defined line that in 1910 it stopped. So more or less in 1910 it stopped, and after that it got replaced by other movements of modern architecture and design. And again, similar to the art and craft movement, if we look at Art Nouveau inspiration board, from where they have got their visual inspiration and the style, they had Baroque and Rococo again. Why Baroque and Rococo again? This is as we were discussing, if we look at this graph, art and craft, this is high on aesthetics. I am drawing the graph in this way, so that aesthetically if it is high it will come down, and if it is has less ornamentation it will go up. In that this is the way of the way I am drawing the graph. So here the art and craft movement and Art Nouveau was there. This is the how the for the machine movement was there. But next, if we look at what was there for their creative inspiration, because they cannot take creative inspiration from there, because this is absolutely different. Then before industrial revolution, if they go back, so there was Baroque and Rococo, which was again high on abstraction, high on aesthetic value. So they have went to Baroque and Rococo, and then because this was figurative, this was abstract, so they have other figurative influences, which was Gothic, and then Mannerism, and other which was pre-industrial revolution. They have taken few visual styles from the classical, Gothic, Baroque and Rococo. Classical will be low on ornamentation, but still they are figurative, and then again Gothic will be high on ornamentation, but Renaissance will be low on ornamentation, but still they have taken this because they have figurative depiction of biomorphic design elements. So Baroque, Rococo in search of aesthetics. Also the classical, medieval, Renaissance was there because they were also figurative depiction, not abstract. And then folk style of visual expression was also there, because they have they are supporting the traditional architecture and design form. Again the same process of evolving the style. So each and every architectural and design style have some particular design elements by which you can figure out that this style is belonging within this particular era. So how here what they do is it's a very generic discussion. So so they have taken biomorphic, all this biomorphic and high really aesthetic style, and which is natural inspired form and shapes. Then they have destroyed with a particular consistency. So where this unlikely the pre-industrial styles, this is little towards abstraction that we were discussing in our art and craft movement as well. So if we look at the figurative styles which was in the pre-industrial revolution era, here we are right now in the pre-modern. So here it is abstract. High modern is totally abstract, like Bauhaus and others, so they will use a geometric form, but here it is absolutely figurative. So this is an abstract depiction, but still consider this is a figurative drawing, so like an actual leaf or actual design of flora and fauna. So this Art Nouveau will again, similar to art and craft movement, will not be exact figurative, not exact abstract, will be somewhere here towards figurative, but there is a certain kind of abstraction which we will discuss later, how they have changed the figures which we see through our naked eye with a stylistic abstraction. So there is a style change of drawing a particular object. So this is not a still life drawing the way we are seeing and we are drawing. So there is a kind of creative metamorphosis going on, and then they kind of create an abstract visual style which is a style for Art Nouveau. So here in the design inspiration, definitely what art and craft movement, this is art and craft movement's textile designed by William Morris, because art and craft movement and Art Nouveau, they were parallel, so they took inspiration from both. So art and craft movement also took inspiration from Art Nouveau also took inspiration from art and craft movement, and you can see the biomorphic curvilinear pattern which was there. And Baroque and Rococo style. If you look at the Baroque and Rococo style, this was also highly ornate, and then there was figurative depiction of a human figure, and here also you will see a lot of paintings and high ornamentation and excessive use of metallic colors like gold, and then there are a lot of gold filigree works over there, and lot of different works. Even in the facade there are some flutes over there. So this came from Baroque and Rococo style. Also, they have taken inspiration from Japanese woodcut print. So this was not in the European style, but still some woodcut prints were there in the Art Nouveau style, because this is also a in some art and craft movement there was lithography and woodcut print. So these are the printing techniques. Art Nouveau also used some printing techniques, and then they have used because Japanese woodcut prints are very famous, and they have mastered in woodcut printing technology. They have studied the Japanese style of woodcut print, and also the Japanese woodcut prints are very intricate. So this is Katsushika Hokushai's views of Mount Fuji. This is Mount Fuji, and this painting is called Great Wave. You must have seen this painting, and there's a lot of intricate patterns as well, and the techniques of layering different colors for different print blocks and making a print. So this is printed by wood, and each and every color has a one particular print. So this was also inspired from Japanese woodcut prints, and mostly Katsushika Hokushai and other Japanese painters. And now Art Nouveau went to its peak. It started from 1880s to 1910, but at 19th there is a Paris exposition which is called Exposition Universelle, and there all the exhibitions of art and Art Nouveau design and architecture was showcased from throughout the European countries. So if you look at the main entrance was designed, you can see the Eiffel Tower of Paris, and here this was the main entrance, and you can see the exaggerated ornate style of entrance. And here you look at the style. This is Art Nouveau style of design. This was the main entrance, and this was Austrian pavilion. And if you look at this ornate designs, this is Art Nouveau style in the pavilion where they have showcased their artwork. This is German pavilion in this same symposium where they have showcased their German's work of Art Nouveau. And then a metro station was designed by Hector Guimard. Hector Guimard was one of the famous industrial designer and architect of Art Nouveau style. He have designed this metro station for this particular symposium in 1900. So if you look at it carefully, here this is a metro station, but this is generally earlier the metro station, railway stations were designed for the machine movement style. So it will be just the construction, and that is how it will look like. So it will be generated, it will be construction driven design. But here he have used wrought iron. This is all wrought iron cast structure, and but these floral elements were there in this his design. Even in the parapet and the railings, these works are there. Even in the canopy it was there. So this is not just a technique which traditional artisans do. So that is the difference between art and craft movement and Art Nouveau. They imbibe the new technology, new material, but they started giving their compiling their own creative thought process combined with the new technology. So that's why this biomorphic elements were designed. And if you look at, this is not a straight line. These are all different, and then there are different styles, which is called Whiplash style, which we'll discuss later with the detail of design, which is there. So they are combining new technology and new material with their creative expression, which was taken from Baroque and Rococo. So new material, new technology with the help of, with the creative inspiration of older architectural style. So there was a paradigm shift between this architecture and design. So now if we look at the architects of Art Nouveau, one of the famous architect of Art Nouveau style was Antonio Gaudi. This is a design of a building, Casa Mila in Barcelona. Now look at the facade of this building. So this building's facade, it absolutely biomorphic, and there is no similarity of the balconies. Look at the balcony, this balcony and this the balcony's curvature is different, then this is different. So this is not, this is going against the machine made abstraction, the minimalist style. This is absolutely opposite to the minimalist style, and each and every wrought iron work was different. If you look at the railing of this, each and every floor, it is different, and even the curvature of each floor does not match. So this is absolutely taken from biomorphic style. So this line, you don't see, this is not a geometric line, this is called biomorphic and curvilinear line. Everywhere this lines where does not, it goes, it just flows. And look at the iron work again. If you see the iron work, this is he is using the new material which is wrought iron, but he is expressing his own thought into the iron. So this cannot be machine made, this cannot be mass manufactured, because each and every design is different, but the new technology is there, and with the help of new technological advancement, he is molding this lines into the parapet wall. So this is another building, Casa Batlló, which is in the same style. This is the section of the Casa Batlló. This is the front facade. If you look at the front facade, and again there is a biomorphic line is over there, is like a lizard, and which we will see in other things. So the color also changes like a lizard, and then the facade treatments, all the ornamentations is done, it's a manifestation of high craftsmanship. And within the building also, if you see, there's a biomorphic lines, and each and every arch is different, each and every columns are different, their lines are different. If you look carefully, this rotates in this direction, this rotates in the other direction, and this curvature doesn't match this curvature. So there's a lot of drama in within the fluidity of the interior as well. So from the exterior and the interior, every it has a lot of ornamentation, and it's very, very high in ornamentation, and you also can look at the works are different outside as well. So no work in this side will match on the other side. So this is absolutely against the process of repetition. And but in art and craft movement, there was a process of repetition. In the tessellation was there in art and craft movement. Tessellation process was not used in Art Nouveau. So we have already discussed the tessellation and repetitive work of the same similar design, either by mirroring or by copying on top and bottom, and so to create a pattern on the facade treatment. If you remember the barn of art and craft movement, this had a pitched roof which was earlier seen, and there in the mental model of people which was there, directly taken from the earlier construction technique. And then the treatment of the barn will be something like grids, and which there was a repetition, but there will be handwork. So if you remember the design, so this kind of stone work was there, which was repetitive but designed by hand. But here in Art Nouveau, nothing will be repetitive, and no style will be very rectilinear. And even if you see this art and craft movement, you will see this kind of buildings were mostly seen. So these kind of chimneys will be there, and then other gable roofs will be seen in the previous thing. So they did not challenge the mental image of the of a building, traditional building, that much. But in Art Nouveau, they have created a absolutely very drastic and dramatic effect with the building. So this might be generated from a pitched roof, but the pitched roof has a high curvature, and it changed its form absolutely, unlike the art and craft movement's architectural design, and high on curvilinear form, which in architecture of art and craft movement was not as much curvilinear than the of Art Nouveau. This is another design by Antonio Gaudi, which is a very famous example of which is a cathedral, Sagrada Familia, again in Barcelona, which started in the similar late 80s, but still the construction is not finished, because this, if you look at the curvature, this requires so much of construction detail, and so many artisans has to work on each and every facade detail, and each and every facade detail is different, and it looks like a molten wax, and every curves are different. So they started in late 1980s, and still it's the work is going on. You can see the construction is still going on. And so if we look at the facade, each and every towers are different, each and every facade of this cathedral is different. If we look inside the building, so this is the detail of a facade, and you can visualize the scale. This is the human scale, and each and every, this side, if you look at the statue over here, they are different, and this requires so many artisans work together so that it still the work is going on, and the facades of each ornamentation does not follow others. So this is absolutely a manifestation of biomorphic design. So biology in nature, we don't see a repetition of the same thing. So each and every tree will be different, each and every flora and fauna will be different. That has taken an inspiration from Gaudi has taken an inspiration from that. But if you look carefully, the figures and this forms of flora and fauna, they have a particular style which we will discuss, and there, so they are not exactly like a tree. So this if you look at, this is abstraction, and some lines were there. So so there's a pattern created from the tree, but not exactly he is making a exact replica of a tree. And even the human figures were broken in certain way. So if you look at the human, so there were a lot of angularity added to the human figure. So here you see a sharp angles in the human figure as well. So it's not like Renaissance or Baroque and Rococo style. Within the castle, if you look at, this is the interior of the cathedral. These are the columns which he depicted as a tree form. So this, the tree goes in, and this is the branching node, and from here the branches of the tree goes up, and then you look upside, this is like a canopy. So here if you look at the way he is depicting a forest within the cathedral, this is like a when you go inside the cathedral, he wanted the user to feel like he's inside a forest, and will look up, you will see the dense foliage. So this is how he is breaking the foliage. This is clearly, you can see, this is inspiration has been taken from tree, but there's a certain kind of abstraction there, and then the flutes are there, and this is highly angular and stylistic form is there, and the foliage is broken into geometric star like structures, which this is the bottom side of the foliage, and the skylights are there where the light will come from there. So this is how biomorphic inspiration has been translated into a figurative, a little abstracted form, and pattern language evolved. Now his another design example was Park Güell, also that's in Barcelona, and here you will similarly see the curvilinearity of the form, and again it changes, and the design changes, the color changes, the overemphasis of the different kind of ceramic tiles has been placed on top of the plaster, and even if you look at the dramatic curvature of the roof forms, which is very different from art and craft movements barn like structure. So a lot of curvilinearity has been added to the facade, and every facade is very different. Even the staircase is going in a fluid manner. Even this is the stone masonry work of Park Güell, and if you see, the color also varied, and a lot of drama has been added to the design. And this is how the parapet wall, and it flows like a fluid form, and this is one of the famous structure which is there somehow inside the Park Güells. When you come down the staircase, you see this lizard from where this water is gushing out of his mouth. So here he has used the same glass mosaic tiles to create different patterns, which also is iconic sculpture. Now another Art Nouveau architect was Viktor Jota. He his main works were in Brussels, Belgium. One of his design was Hotel Solvay. If we look at the outside, it was not as ornate and as biomorphic like Gehry, but still similar work has been done within the inside of this is another building. But here, if we look at carefully, again this kind of wrought iron works were there in the parapet, and even if you look at this curvilinearity, so it is there, but not as much as what Gaudi did. So again inside this is another Hotel Tussle by Viktor Jota. Is a house of a professor and scientist. In this balustrade and this railing, if you look at this kind of forms, which was very curvilinear and biomorphic. You can imagine a creeper he have taken inspiration from creepers, and these creepers also does not repeat in the same manner. So if you look at the design of the chandelier, also this looks like flowers and then creepers which hangs from the top. And if you look at the structural member, which which is also there in the metro station of Paris, the wrought iron structure, which is a load bearing structure. In front of that, lot of floral patterns were there. If you look at this ornamentation and this ornamentation, there are slight difference. So here they are using the new technology, new method of building materials, and then they are creatively expressing their creativity into that. Even in the floor you can see the similar creeper like biomorphic lines were there. This is called Whiplash line, which we will see. And this is now let us take example from some paintings and print media. So this is a print media lithography. Lithography is a printing technique where designers use a block made out of stone, or it can also be with iron or metal. So that block will be a negative of painting, and then paints will be applied on that block, and it will be pressed on a fabric, and this will be fabric or canvas. Then there will be the lithographic prints. So this is lithographs of Alfonso Mucha, who is one of the famous painter and designer of this Art Nouveau style. And again you will see the Whiplash biomorphic pattern. So this pattern is called Whiplash. We will see similar works there, and which is getting repeated in Art Nouveau style. In art and craft movement, these kinds of lines were not there. So in art and craft movement, if they want to depict flora, they will create a lot of ornamentation in flora leaf, but it will not flow like a very flowy line. In Art Nouveau, which will be like a Whiplash lines, which will flow in a different order, and then they will depict some leaf or hair or drapery with a flowy line. In art art and craft movement, they will not use such a dynamic line, but there will be pattern generated out of it. Even if you look at the Art Nouveau's William Morris's work, you will not see so many lines going in the different direction. So this was a typical style of Art Nouveau, not in art and craft movement, which you have seen in William Morris and others' work in the previous slide. So here also in the drapery you will see different lines going in a different direction. This is a particular style of Art Nouveau. In the drapery everywhere you can figure out. So here the way Art Nouveau creates his depicts his flora. If you go back in art and craft movement, you will see that this kind of work was not there. So this is the work of art and craft movement, which was very different from Art Nouveau. So art and craft movement will depict a floral pattern like this manner, and Art Nouveau will depict it like whiplash, and this kind of patterns will be there. So that is the stylistic difference. If you can look at carefully, you will see the difference clearly. Now this is what whiplash lines are. So Pan magazine in 1894, which is where the Art Nouveau and art and craft movement was still going on, they depicted it like sudden violent curves generated by the crack of a whip. So the whip, when the whip cracks, and the sudden violent lines will be there, and that is the style of Art Nouveau, and which will not follow, the one line will not be repeated anywhere. So if you look at carefully in the product design, the whiplash lines are there, and in this is the Alfonso Mucha's painting. Similarly here, and Hotel Tussle, again this is a Hotel Solvay's outside wall. Again, if you see the whiplash patterns are there, and Alfonso Mucha's other lithographic works, the same whiplash lines. If you look at the hair, the drapery, you will see the whiplash lines were used in painting, in the wallpaper, in the product design. So this is the style of Art Nouveau. Now Alfonso Mucha was also an interior designer. He designed the similar lines, if you will see, in the sculpture, even in the facade treatment of the interior, the same kind of style of design is there. So this is Art Nouveau, which is different from art and craft movement in the stylistic fashion, but has some similarity with the philosophical perspective. Now other Art Nouveau style was, as Art Nouveau used the new technique, they used wrought iron. We see the wrought iron works in Art Nouveau, in the parapet wall, the iron filigree works, and the product design, even in the painting, the print media, the wallpaper, even in the flooring of the Hotel Tussle has that. And then also in the glass work, that's also a new material. They have percolated, they have tapped that technology as well. And Louis Stefani was one of the famous glass painter. He used stained glass as well as painted glass painting techniques to create windows. And Stefani windows during 1980s to 1920 was very famous, and he created a lot of windows which won award in some places, and then it was a very famous window designer of a window and window frames and the other glass work. So this is a lampshade by Louis Stefani. He is a designer of America. So Art Nouveau also went in America. And this is a Stefani window of his own house in New York. So this is a glass painting. And again you will see the ornate style of Art Nouveau. And Art Nouveau always does not require whiplash lines. This is one of the style of Art Nouveau, but there will be another kind of visual expression in Art Nouveau as well. So this is one predominant style of Art Nouveau where there will be whiplash. So you can find out that this is taking an inspiration from Art Nouveau, but there can be other styles of Art Nouveau as well. For example, there will be a lot of different kind of works, and ornamentation, which is floral ornamentation is there. This is an Art Nouveau glass painting. Here also, here also you will see the whiplash patterns, and then free flowing curvilinear forms are there. This is one of the Tiffany window in which won in the same exposition universally in 19th century Paris. He won the gold medal for this display of the window. This is another Stefani window. You will see a lot of different kind of colors, gradient colors and the paintings, and again some lines will be there in the biomorphic fashion. You will see here So this is in Church of Baltimore. This is there. So we are discussing different materials and techniques which were used in Art Nouveau, and in the next class we will also continue with the Art Nouveau styles in product design as well as in painting, and we will see some other styles of Art Nouveau which was built up and mostly focused on the furniture design and the other paintings like Klimt's painting, which was taken inspiration from art and craft movement and Baroque and Rococo. Thank you.